Right. The Nostradamus of polling, Alan Lichtman, has predicted using a tool he created decades ago that Kamala Harris will win the election. He's been using this tool since 1984 and has only been wrong one time and one time only. And that was the Gore Bush election, which, that election was, you know how that election was. So that's the only time that this has been wrong. So it's really, really accurate. He's now saying, according to this formula that he's developed with a Russian geophysicist, that Kamala Harris will win. The formula is called the Keys to the White House, and it consists of 13 true-false statements pertaining to circumstances surrounding the presidential election. Now, if 5 or fewer statements are false, then that means the incumbent party will remain in power. So if 6 or more are deemed false, then that means the other party will take power. And according to this, Lichtman claims that right now only 4 are false, which means, dun, 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 Kamala Harris and the Democrats will remain in power. Wah, wah. So let's go over these keys and see what we think, because I actually think this guy is not interpreting his own formula correctly. And I actually think that there are a lot more than 4 false statements, and that would indicate that Donald Trump is actually going to win the election. So let's go over these key statements. So here is the graph here. What we're showing you in this graph, the red is the false, the green is the true. The first bar up there is the 2016 election. I just wanted to show you the previous elections and this current one that he's predicting. So the first one up at the top is 2016. That was Hillary Clinton to Donald Trump. He predicted using this formula that Donald Trump would win. Nobody else was predicting that at the time. So you got to give the guy credit where credit's due. Although Alan Lichtman, I got to tell you, is a giant libtard, like giant. Like he's totally against Donald Trump, wanted him to be impeached, super, super partisan. But the guy says, he says, look, yes, maybe I'm a big Democrat, maybe I'm a big partisan guy, but I've been predicting presidential elections since 1984, and I even predict when it's a Republican, and I've been right. So, yeah, maybe I've got my own political leanings, but this is, it is what it is. But I do think that this one time it might be getting to him, which makes sense because, the brain rot happens during elections, especially during all elections, brain rot happens, but it particularly when it pertains to Donald Trump. So that's why I think maybe this guy is not answering the questions correctly this time, and we'll go over it. But the first one on the graph, let's go back to that. That's 2016 at the top, Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump. He did predict Donald Trump won. 2020, he did predict that Joe Biden would win because the first one in 2016, there was 6 false statements. And remember, the formula says if there are, when you look at these true and false statements, if 6 of them are false, 6 or more, then the other party will win. And of course, in 2016, Obama was in power, so he predicted Donald Trump would win. 2020, it turned out that 7 were false. So he predicted Joe Biden would win based on those 7 false answers to the true or false statements. And now in 2024, he's saying that only 4 are false out of the 13 questions. What are the 13 questions? And let's see how you would answer these 13 questions. Okay, again, these are called the 13 keys to the White House. The first question is, after the midterm elections, it's called the party mandate question. After the midterm elections, the incumbent party holds more seats in the U.S. House of Representatives than after the previous midterm elections, true or false. So in this case with Kamala Harris and the Democrats and Joe Biden, the answer is false. Democrats have consistently since 2020 lost seats in the U.S. House of Representatives. Maybe they've gained a couple or have lost. They have a net loss. So this party mandate question, it would be okay if they lost some seats in 2020 as long as they gained them back, plus some in 2022. That would have made this statement true, that they had more seats than after the previous midterm elections, but they do not. In this case, Democrats have lost seats, and so this is false. So this is Kamala Harris's or Democrats' first false. So you might lose. Question number 2, true or false? There is no serious contest for the incumbent party nomination. Now, this one's weird, right? Because this was a weird election. And Alan Lichtman, according to this, claims that it's true. He says that's true. There was no serious contest for the incumbent party nomination. So he's saying it's true. Nobody challenged the incumbent. What? They took the guy out to pasture. They literally took him out back. And they basically, offed the guy. And then they brought in Kamala Harris. And even that was, okay, sure, I guess Democrats all fell in line. I mean, how can you make the claim? So he's saying it's true. There was no serious contest for the incumbent party nomination. This is where I think he's off his rocker. I think this is false. They didn't allow a contest. How can you say there was no serious contest when they literally didn't allow a contest? They took the old guy out to pasture. And then with the new lady, they just brought her in and said, nobody gets to have a say in this. We don't want to vote. There's no serious contest. So yeah, I guess when there's no contest, then I guess, if you don't have a contest, I guess there can't be a serious contest. So he says that's true. I protest this one a bit. I think this could go false. I think this one could go false. Okay, number 3, true or false? The incumbent party candidate is the sitting president. That's false, right? So, and he agrees, according to this, it's false. He says that's false, right? Joe Biden is not the incumbent party president, and he is the sitting president. So that's false. So that's another, Kamala, you might lose. Number 4, there is no significant third party or independent campaign. He says true. There was no significant third party or independent campaign. So according to the keys, if there was an independent challenger that actually people were really interested in, then that shows political instability. The whole point of these keys is to determine whether or not there's political stability or political instability. And if there's enough political instability, which is what all the false answers would indicate, then that means a shift, an earthquake. People want change. If there's political stability, people are overall happy. Maybe things are kind of mediocre, but they're overall happy and they're not really looking to have that earthquake of change by putting in the other party into power. A third party candidate represents political instability. That is showcasing that people are unhappy. Now he's saying that it's true there was no significant third party independent campaign. I suppose you would interpret it that way if you are a Democratic partisan hack and you completely disregard the Kennedy from a heritage Democrat family who ran because he, for one, wasn't getting a fair shake in the Democratic Party and then decided to go and become an independent. And he was being completely bamboozled by the mainstream media, by the DNC, by the whole thing. They even tried to get his name taken. They tried to sue him to the point where he couldn't be on the ballot, not allowing for that serious contest. So I actually think there was a significant third party or independent candidate who ran. I just think that, again, they didn't allow for that candidate to have any real serious consideration. So does that count? Does that count when you actually just sideline him completely by acting, just by, completely burying that? I don't know. I again, like number 2, with him claiming that there was no serious contest for the primary, I dispute this one. I think this one could also be false. So if that's the case, now the 4 that he claims Kamala has could have turned into 6. That means Donald Trump wins. And we're just on question number 4 right now, okay? Question number 5, true or false? Now he says it's true, okay? Just like every Democrat has been gaslighting us into telling us this is true. The economy is not in a recession. He says, true, it's not a recession. This is what Democrats have been saying, right? Don't believe your lying checkbooks. Don't believe your lying bank accounts. You're fine. The economy is strong. So what if you're paying $7 for a carton of eggs, or $12 at one point, or whatever it was, right? So what if inflation is runaway, what do they call it? Transitory inflation. Transitory inflation. Oops, it wasn't so transitory after all, was it? No. Okay, so they're saying the economy is not in a recession, even though they've defined recession differently than how the American people feel it. He also says it's true that the real per capita, this is question number 6, real per capita economic growth during the term equals or exceeds mean growth during the previous 2 terms. So meaning strong long-term economy. So the first one was strong short-term economy. He says true. And then the second question, strong long-term economy. He says true. Americans would like a word with you, Alan Lichtman. Not so sure about that. So that right there could be false number 7 for Kamala Harris. That means Trump would win according to this formula. Question number 7, the incumbent administration, so this is the Biden administration or the Democrat administration, affects major changes in national policy. So he says that is true. He says there was some major changes in national policy. He cites Build Back Better and going back to the Paris Climate Accord, and also the World Health Organization, strengthening the World Health Organization as major changes in national policy. I don't know how previous major national policy changes were like things like, and he cites in here examples of the New Deal, the Great New Deal, and also Obama's, Obamacare. Those types of things are major shifts in national policy. I agree with that. I don't feel like there's been any major change in national policy. He also cites undoing Trump's executive orders. Again, kind of showing his partisan hack there, right? Question number 8. So on that one, okay, maybe we'll give it to him and say, all right, maybe, I guess if you want to call Build Back Better and joining the Paris Climate Accord is major change in national policy, okay, fine. Let's just give it to him because there's so many others we can take. So number 8. Here's another one. He says, true. There's no sustained social unrest during the term. Historical examples that are used in these keys to the White House are things like George Floyd, the protests, and also, interestingly, the anti-war protests of Vietnam. So now he's saying, it's true, there's no sustained social unrest during the term, yet college campuses have been filled with unrest as students have been protesting the United States' support of Israel. Many Americans are very upset about this. There's been, I think there's been sustained social unrest during this term. I think he's wrong on that. Okay, number 9. The incumbent administration is untainted by major scandal. Okay, was there, we're not dealing with like impeachments like we did with Donald Trump or like major sex scandals that have come out that the media has paid any attention to. I personally think taking Joe Biden taking him out to pasture is kind of a scandal. I think taking a sitting president who wanted to run, who was actively running for president again for re-election, and completely thwarting democracy and putting in a new person that nobody voted for. I kind of think that that's a major scandal, but he's not viewing that as a major scandal. Okay, Hunter Biden, the Hunter Biden laptop scandal. Those are scandals, right? Those are kind of scandals. So to say that the incumbent administration is untainted by major scandal, the guy has dementia. So you've got a dementia president. That's a scandal. Who's running the country? People are wondering. They take him out to pasture. That's a scandal. They stick in the vice president who nobody liked, nobody voted for. That's kind of a scandal. Hunter Biden, kind of a scandal. All of this is a bit of a scandal, but okay. Maybe we'll give that one to him just to give him something. Number 10, the incumbent administration suffers no major failure in foreign or military affairs. Now, on this one, he did say that's false. So he at least does cite Gaza and the failures with getting a ceasefire done there as a failure. So I agree with him on that one. Number 11, he says, the incumbent administration, he says this is true. The incumbent administration achieved a major success in foreign or military affairs. Now, what major success does Alan Lichtman claim the Biden-Harris administration achieved? Oh, funny you ask. Ukraine. He cites Ukraine as being a victory, a foreign military achievement is Ukraine. The thinking is rallying up all the NATO allies to support Ukraine with endless weapons and endless money, throwing hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian bodies out this war is somehow a great achievement for the administration. I don't know if I agree with that. I think a lot of America. Now, you know what? Actually, I'm going to sadly agree with him on this one. Not because I think that's actually a foreign policy achievement, but because I think that many Americans do view it that way. I think the majority of Americans view Ukraine. I do think the majority of Americans want to support Ukraine. And I do think the majority of Americans view Ukraine not being completely taken over by Russia as an achievement. The majority of Americans, unfortunately, ignore the fact, ignore all the historical facts that led up to this war. They ignore all of the dead bodies. They're ignoring all of these things. But I do think I'm going to have to give that to them, I suppose, that the majority of Americans agree. Okay, number 12, true or false? The incumbent party candidate is charismatic or a national hero. He also agreed that's false. He says that's false. Kamala Harris is not charismatic or a national hero. Okay, I agree. There's nothing charismatic, and she hasn't done anything that's hero status. We don't have that. But number 13, he says this is true, and I don't know if I agree with this, but he says the challenging party candidate is not charismatic or a national hero. Fight, fight, fight. That kind of made Trump a national icon and a hero. That, no matter whether, I've had so many conversations with people who are not voting for Donald Trump. They do not like Donald Trump, but they still viewed that moment as iconic, that was a true American moment. The man was shot and he stands up and says, fight, 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 as he's got blood dripping down his ear. Many people can view that and say, that made us proud as Americans. That was a moment where he showed American strength, American resilience, American gumption to get back up and fight no matter what happens. That was a very American moment. And that will go down in history, guys. Whether you like Donald Trump or not, that will go down in history as one of the greatest moments in American history. And generations from now, when we're all long dead, generations from now, all of those kids who are yet to be born, the generations yet to be conceived, when they come into American existence, they will read that story and see the footage, and they will view that as historic because they won't be tainted by all of the political fighting that we see and the toxicity and the smears and the slander and all of that stuff. They're not going to be tainted by any of that. They're just going to see an iconic moment and they're going to think that guy is a hero for fight, fight, fight while he's got blood dripping down his ear. So I don't think I agree with that one either with Alan Lichtman. And not only that, but how can you say Trump is not charismatic? The guy's charismatic. I mean, if anything, remember the guy was a TV star. So to sit here and say he's uncharismatic, like as if you're comparing him to Joe Biden, you're comparing him to Kamala Harris, right? This guy is charismatic. If that's the one thing he definitely is. He was a TV star before he became president. That's how people knew him. Donald Trump, you're fired from The Apprentice. I mean, this guy was So to say that he's not charismatic is so bizarre to me. So I'm going to say Alan Lichtman is wrong on this. He has predicted. Now, look, that could just be me. That could be me. That could be you. We might think he's wrong. What really matters is how the majority of the American people feel, particularly independents, right? So it won't really matter about what Republicans think because they're going to vote Trump. Democrats are going to vote Kamala Harris. It really matters how independents view these 13 keys and how they then interpret them. That's really what it comes down to. But by my math, I'm going to say and remember, the keys say if it's 5 or fewer false, then the incumbent party wins. If it's 6 or more false, then the challenging party wins. And by my count, I say number 1 is false. Number 2 is false. Number 3 is false. Number 4 is false. Number 5 is false. Number 6 is false. Number 7, we decided to give it to him. Number 8 is the no social unrest. What do we think? Do we think we want to give that to him, or do we want to say that the unrest at the college campuses is enough? You know what? Let's just give it to him. Throw a dog a bone. Okay, so we'll say, okay, fine, that's true. There's no real big, it's not like George Floyd. It's not like COVID. Okay, fine. No scandal. All right, fine. We'll give him that one, even though I don't agree. They took the old man out to pasture. But no foreign military failure. That's 7. Okay. No foreign, major foreign or military success. We said we'd give it to him. Charismatic incumbent. That's false. That's 8. And uncharismatic challenger or national hero. I think he's wrong on that. That's 9. By my math, and I'm being generous, right? I could have taken 11 out of the 13, but we're just going to say 9 just to be nice. 9 out of 13, that means Donald Trump wins. So but this guy is the Nostradamus of polling, and he's been right every single time except with Al Gore and George Bush. And that was the Supreme Court had to decide that one. So this formula, and when they developed this formula, him and this Russian geophysicist, they went way back in time and they applied it to a variety of all of the elections in the past in order to fine tune this to make it correct and accurate. And then since they've been using it since 1984, it has been accurate except for George Bush and Al Gore. And even then that was a hotly contested, and it's very possible that Al Gore actually won that election. I mean, he could have been right on that one too. So, but man, Kamala Harris, what if she wins, guys? I don't know. That to me is going to be the biggest. People are, if Donald Trump wins, there's going to be just unrest. It's going to be terrible. I just think if Kamala Harris wins, there's going to be a lot of, how can this person, nobody's voted for her. Nobody's liked her. Anyway, we'll find out, and we're a week away. We're 1 week away to finding out exactly what's going to happen. But tell me your thoughts. Comment down below. Tell me, what do you think about these keys? Do you think that Alan Lichtman's right? Do you think that he's wrong? You can also email me, kim@kimiverson.com. Thank you so much for watching. This was just a clip from the longer, larger show that you can catch Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern at kimiversonshow.com. That'll route you to the platform where you need to be in order to get the full uncensored show every Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Click on that link. Watch the full interview. See you there.